Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today from McFarlane Toys. In their DC Multiverse line, we are featuring DC Classic Superman. Alright, so this is a really interesting figure. Today is February 24th, 2024. I bought this the other day at my local GameStop. I saw it and my first impression was, this looks very familiar to me, and I love all things Superman, so I had to grab it. So as soon as I got this home, the first thing that came to mind is this looks almost identical to the DC Page Punchers Superman that we got last year. It was part of the Black Adam wave, and that figure was based off of the comic book designs done by artist Lee Bermejo. And as it turns out, I think I'm right. The only thing different between that figure and this one is this one has a new head sculpt, and also the color palette is drastically different. Whereas the original release of the figure in the Page Punchers line was a little bit more like earth tones and kind of a much more muted color scheme. This one takes the complete opposite approach and really punches this figure up with really vibrant colors, and it takes on a much more like classic comic book inspired feel to it. If you watch my review on the original figure, the Page Punchers Superman, I think I said it might be, close to being a perfect Superman figure, but the color scheme might deter some people away from it. This one, on the other hand, it's almost perfect. There's some discrepancies and I have some reservations about it, but I think it's a really nice looking figure, especially if you're on the hunt for like the perfect Superman figure. I think even though it's not perfect, it's, I think it kind of falls within that ballpark of what some people consider like an iconic Superman. So let's get started. On the back, we have some nice artwork. I kind of wish they would reference the artist and the comic book this came from, because it's a cool image. It kind of reminds me of the artwork of artist Darwin Cook, but I don't think that's his. It's a nice throwback to like a earlier age of Superman. But even though this is labeled as a DC classic, the figure that's represented here clearly doesn't really match what's going on over here. So I think, it kind of pays a disservice to both, but that's not to take away from either of them. This is still a really beautiful rendering of Superman, and this is still a great looking figure. I just kind of wish, they were a little bit closer. This clearly does not reflect the action figure. But it's not to say it's a bad drawing. I think it's a really nice piece. Much better than some of the other artwork we've gotten in the past for the back cover art and the trading cards. Alright, so let's take this figure out. So in addition to the trading card, you do get the flight stand. It's with the clear base, and it kind of has the armature post and also the waist clip. So I'm really liking this figure a lot. I think it still has the problem that the first release had, and that is the hands are too large. The first figure in the Page Punchers line, the Superman that came in that Black Adam wave, Superman's hands were just ginormous, and you know what they say about large hands, right? Large feet. Let's take this off. All right, before we send the tray away, extra hands. So you have different hand options. You have the open palms for flying and the somewhat relaxed hands. Again, these hands are a little bit too large for the figure. You know, if you compare the size of his head, and yeah, there's no exaggeration there. These hands are gigantic. But focusing on the figure, I think it's a really well done figure. Let's balance out the colors here. Yeah, the head sculpt I think is great. Again, I don't think this reflects the Superman that we see on the box art, but it's such a youthful representation of Superman. In many ways, I'd almost consider this a great proxy for Superboy Prime. Prior to him having the anti-monitor armor. I believe Superboy Prime's first appearance was back in 1985 in, I think it was like DC Comics Presents number 87, and I think this was during the time period of I think Crisis on Infinite Earths, I think. But this, I think, is a great proxy for Superboy Prime, just because it's a leaner build for the character, and the very youthful expression and face, I think, is very appropriate for Superboy Prime before he becomes corrupt some years later. Really well done. I love the spit curl. It's very clean. He has a very innocent smile and expression on his face. And I think the Lee Bermejo Page Puncher's body, it just fits the overall persona of Superboy. You know, it's much leaner build. He's not too bulked up. He's not too swole. The proportions are really well done. You know, he's not too lanky. It's just right. And I do like the cape also. Even though I'm much more partial to neutral capes that kind of just flow downward, even this one's a little bit more dynamic. It doesn't really exceed the width of the shoulders too much, so it's not going to take up too much real estate on your shelf or display space. But it's a nice figure, and I could really see some people using this as, you know, their go-to Superman figure in their McFarlane collection. You know, he's not too bulky, he's not too stylized. But like I said, I don't think this necessarily reflects a classic Superman. For example, his belt and belt buckle is a much more modern design, as are his boots. I kind of wish he had the Superman emblem on the back of his cape, but you know, that's kind of a detail that's omitted a lot. But it's such a beautiful figure. You know, with the exception of the hands being a little bit too large, I think it's a near perfect Superman. It looks great. The shade of blue is nice too. It's not too deep. It's not too rich. It's kind of a much more lighter blue, which I think fits the vibe of the character. You know, it's youthful. It's a little bit more energetic. And it's just a great piece. If you're a big fan of that Black Adam wave Page Puncher Superman, this one I think is just, the cat's meow. I think this thing is just awesome. I mean, just look at that. You know, like I say before in many videos, sometimes with the face sculpts, you cast the right light onto it, and the shadows that are created really brings this figure to life. It's such a clean and well-presented action figure. In terms of articulation, his head moves. Does he look down? Not so much. Does he look up? It's decent. You know, he's a flyer, so it's nice that he could tilt his head back. Personally, I kind of wish you'd be able to do it further back, but, this is all right. His arms are well articulated. He does have the ball-socketed butterfly joint, as you can see there, which provides for greater range of motion. Bicep swivel. Double-pinned elbows. They're exposed. Articulated wrists. He has a cut mid-torso, so it allows for some swivel and some bend. And, of course, also a waist swivel. Legs kick up. Not as far as I'd like. To kick outward also. double pin knees, and articulated ankles and toes. So overall, I think it's an excellent figure. If I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say 8.5 to a low 9. For me, the big, you know, it's not even that bad of a deal breaker is the fact that his hands are a little bit oversized and disproportionate to the rest of the figure. But overall, I think it's a fantastic piece, and he does not want to focus. Why does he want to focus? There you go. Yeah, so overall, it's a fantastic piece. I think this is a great figure. So if you're on the hunt for a perfect classics-themed Superman, even though this isn't completely classic, it's close enough. You know, the belt's a little bit too modern, but otherwise, I think it's a really awesome figure. Again, the hands are just a little bit too large, but I think that's forgivable. And if you have a large collection of McFarlane figures, there might be a chance you could swap the hands out with smaller ones from another figure. But overall, excellent action figure. Can't recommend this one enough. It was a pleasant surprise for me. This is one that, when I first saw the promotional photos, I didn't really give it much thought. I think they debuted this figure maybe back in November or December of last year. And when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, it looks pretty neat. But I kind of thought I had my fill of Superman figures. But once I saw this in person, I was like, I kind of changed my tune. I'm like, this is nice. You know, it's kind of subtle. It's not overly done. And it's just a very clean, well-presented action figure. So I'm kind of hoping that in the near future they give us a plain Clark Kent. You know, like a Clark Kent in his civilian outfit with the glasses and everything, or make it a 2-pack with Lois or a 2-pack with Jimmy Olsen. You know, I'm really hoping that one day they'll give us some of the civilian characters, as opposed to just giving us, you know, constant superheroes. Like, I'd love a Lex Luthor figure that wasn't in power armor. You know, I'd like a Lex in a suit. You know, maybe make that a 2-pack. Give us a Lex and a Mercy. All right, so let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.